Welcome to 13 Degrees of Screams.
Where we scream so you don't scream.
We're your host, Alex.
And Stephanie.
And this week, we are all going to the World's Fair, and we're all going to the World's Fair.
Before we get started, make sure you subscribe and click the bell to be notified when we post new episodes.
Let's dive in and see just how scary we're all going to the World's Fair is on a scale of 1 to 13. We're All Going to the World's Fair is a 2021 American coming-of-age psychological horror film written, directed, and edited by Jane Schoenbrunn in their narrative feature directorial debut. The film follows Casey, a teenage girl who takes the World's Fair challenge and documents the mental and physical changes that it causes her. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 91% with a critical consensus that states, narratively challenging and visually haunting, We're All Going to the World's Fair adds a uniquely ambitious and unsettling entry to the crowded coming-of-age genre. It also has a 28% audience score. For our ratings, we will discuss 4 aspects of the movie and score it from 0 to 3 for each. These individual ratings will be added to make our overall scary rating. To kick us off, Stephanie, what did you give plot?
I gave plot a 2. I said while I still found the ending ambiguous, I felt like the majority of the plot didn't really amp up that much. Aside from the videos of everyone else sharing their experiences with the World Fair Challenge, nothing really happened to Casey. There's some weird activity while she sleeps, but we know she already had a history of doing that when she was younger. There's a few instances where she seems out of control, but I believe that she's just mentally unwell, given her home life and lack of friends.
I gave plot a 1. I said, while I can see this could be scary to some in an existential type of way, it ultimately didn't land for me in terms of this movie being horror. Sure, it was interesting and some of the ideas presented were at the very least unsettling, but the overall package didn't meet the promise of what the movie was advertised as.
Yeah, I think the poster really made it seem like it was going to get really intense because she's holding that little eyeball up. And I thought like eventually she was going to take the little eyeball and it would have like some sort of hard, pointy thing at the end. And,
Yep. I thought the same thing.
You give me an image, I work with it. So,
and I feel like we should have known this because we did cover I Saw the TV Glow.
Yeah.
And that was also not horror, really.
It wasn't as intense as it also seemed like it could be. But...
So I feel like we bamboozle ourselves. We should have known that Jane's movies are billed as horror, but not really.
Yeah, I guess so. I forgot her name, too, so I was like, oh, okay, I guess. I felt like I was more drawn to, like, the whimsy and, like, the aesthetic of I Saw the TV Glow than this. This felt like any sort of cam movie we could see.
Yeah, and I will say, not to give it a pass, but the budget was minuscule. It looks like maybe something I could have filmed, to be honest. And not that it's a bad thing, it was a good first attempt, I feel, and there wasn't enough in this movie to make it a feature length, in my opinion.
True, because by the time I got to the end, I was like, okay, it's either going to have to be really big, like the freak out that she's going to have to pay off, or, it's going to have to get really, like, more edging into that paranormal on, like, what's going to happen to her. Mm-hmm. But then it doesn't really pay off either way.
I can appreciate the artistic choices in this movie. However, it just wasn't for me, I would say. And I really do like how ambiguous it is that you mentioned in your plot synopsis. I found it not all that creepy, not scary. The ideas were interesting, and the whole isolation of the internet, and then the whole relationship between her and this guy that she's talking to online.
Yeah, that was the most troubling, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Did you find any particular part scary adjacent, at least?
I thought it was starting to get somewhere when she got the message from JLB at first, because that's obviously weird. I thought like maybe eventually her face would transform into that, like he had experience or something, and that's why he wasn't showing his face at first. But he's just some dude sitting in a nice house talking to children on the internet, so he seems very reliable.
Right. This giant house that seemingly he's the only one there.
Oh, no, I saw a woman in the background. I think he's married, or either that or he lives with his mom. Because he kind of has like a child's bedroom in a way.
I thought that too. I was like, why does it look like he's sleeping in a twin bed?
Yeah.
And there's like all these knickknacks above his computer.
Never trust a white man, middle-aged, that sleeps in a twin bed.
Yeah, guys, if you sleep in a twin bed, rethink your choices.
Yeah, get a full at least, please.
I don't think it actually was a twin, but I can't really say much to be honest, because now I think about it, I have a whole bunch of knickknacks and like Funko Pops in my basement. So actually, I can't judge him too bad for his room alone. Let's put it that way.
Do I walk into like your bedroom that you share with your partner and think like a child could live here? Not really. To me, he feels like he's kind of stuck between like that preteen adolescence. Like it looks like he'd have like a bunch of baseball cards.
He's talking to this teenager that he shouldn't, obviously. So you don't ever get into his personal life, and if he is married, you're not sure. So obviously he's lonely to some capacity to be going so far as to talk to someone that he shouldn't. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I
don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, I don't know if we're supposed to believe that he has a liking for children, or if this is something that he believes and he's concerned for kids out there doing the challenge, or if he's just worried for their mental health, because he does break her out of it at the end and tell her, can we talk out of game? And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
A massive multiplayer online role-playing game, and it's just a game we're playing, right?
I mean, yeah.
I did look up this movie a little bit after I watched it just to see other theories. I didn't want to do too much of that to taint my view or like what I thought initially. Someone mentioned that their thought is maybe he had a kid who did this challenge and something bad happened, and that's actually his kid's room. So now he feels like he needs to watch over other people. I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but that's an interesting thought, at least.
Yeah, he really does believe that he's doing something, though, because of his little end speech. Like, he said that he prayed over the computer for Casey's safety. Could have just called the police.
So she didn't give him her address, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But
because someone was also saying, like, yeah, he's definitely just a groomer, and he's just trying to trick her into giving him her address. So that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
This movie's so open to any sort of interpretation. I'd be so curious what Jane's intention was. Like, if you sat down with her and was like, what is the definitive answer of everyone's motivations and what actually happens at the end?
right.
I so badly want to know, because I took a little peek at your some of your ratings, and I think we're maybe not on the same page for some of it.
Oh, okay.
But I'll keep that to myself. But
All right.
I did want to mention the ticket scene where the tickets are coming out of that dude's arm. What were your thoughts on that? Do you think that was just makeup effects that in the movie that this kid did, or did that actually happen?
I believe it's shared delusion. I don't know if that's just like special effects, or if that's just what she believes is happening kind of thing, because we don't know. It's like you said, it's all open-ended. So, and she even says to JLB at the end that, I know it's a game, I'm playing along. But there's so many videos. Like, there's one girl that says that she's turning into plastic and she's very shiny, and I was like, that could just be makeup. Like, I know, I've seen highlighter before, but with the ticket thing, I guess that could just be special effects. But I don't know. What were your thoughts on it?
So my one other criticism with this movie is a lot of it is shown through like her webcam or the videos she's making, but there are scenes where it's outside of that, right? But because of the low budget quality of this movie, sometimes I'm not sure what's meant to be a video she's making, or is this a camera outside of that? Does that make sense? So like the scene where he's pulling the ticket, I'm like, is that a video she's watching, or is that something us as an audience is seeing?
There's also a scene where we cut to like a completely random kid sitting on their bed watching videos of the World Fair stuff, and I think he's starting to do the challenge. And then just hands come out of the computer and pull him in.
Yeah, I think that was someone had made like a fan film about the World's Fair. So like something like a fan. What I kept thinking of when watching this was like the Slender Man videos, like that were all over YouTube, Marble Hornets, stuff like that, where it's like there's this online urban legend or this online challenge and someone makes it into like a short film. That's what I thought it was.
Okay.
And she was watching it.
That's kind of where I was getting, at least to with the Slender Man thing. Just the shared delusion of everyone. If enough people believe, then, it's true.
You just gotta believe.
Clap your hands if you believe.
What did you have for suspense?
I gave it a 2, mostly because I spent the whole movie assuming it would escalate when comparing to the videos of other players and JLB's warnings, but nothing really notable for suspense looking back on it. It's more the anticipation of what could happen than what actually happens.
I gave it a 1, actually. I said, this movie is slow to say the least. Long takes that definitely could have been trimmed down. I didn't find this movie suspenseful, but it did have an overall uncomfortability for me, and it did build up to the end a little bit, even if the movie ultimately ended in a whimper.
I think the only part where I really worried was the fact that before she gets that message from JLB, she goes out to a barn where she just watches that video on a projector. But before she just goes and finds her dad's gun, takes it out, looks at it, and puts it back. Like, okay. And then she ends up messaging him, I don't know how many days later. I know that they're keeping track on the thing. It's like over Christmas. And says that she thinks eventually she will end up shooting her dad, even though she doesn't want to. So I kind of figured it was going to end there somehow, like a family annihilation thing or something, but it just never happened.
Or we don't know if it happened or not.
I guess that's true, but
bum, bum, bum.
Just assuming with what we saw.
Right. Yeah. There's no resolution to that, really. You're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's weird because at the very end, it changes perspective almost to JLB. Because it ends on him giving this monologue about how they met and all this stuff, yada, yada, yada. And Casey gets mad at him when he offers any sort of care, I guess, which is interesting because that's the thing she's not getting from her father. So the second someone does ask for, are you okay? Like, what's going on? She gets pissed. So that's like an interesting thing, too.
I was wondering if it was more or less that he was breaking the delusion, that she felt more comfortable in this fantasy where she was getting attention than to be in real life. And for him to be like, let's talk out of game, then make it more real for her that like she's just doing this on the internet trying to get attention and it's not real, breaking that for her, taking her out of it. And she didn't care for that.
But what's weird about that is if it is such an important thing or this, she's really into it, why did she just cut off completely? Like, you think she'd come back after a week or so, be like, cool off. But from what we know, they don't talk for like a year. And then allegedly they meet up. I don't particularly think happened.
I don't think so either, honestly.
So to me, it's like, obviously this World's Fair delusion doesn't have that big of a grasp on her, because in my mind, if he tried to tell her like, hey, this is just a game, like she's like, yeah, like she looks visibly like confused for a second or like, what are you talking about? But not enough for her to be like, no, what are you talking about? Like, this is real. Like, there is no game. You know what I'm saying?
Your videos have been pretty intense lately.
Well, it's a horror game, right? What did you think? I was actually gonna kill myself?
I don't know.
Or kill somebody else? You thought about calling the fucking police? They're just videos. What is wrong with you? Okay, I have to go. That's not even my name.
Oh, wait.
I don't know. I felt like she was very committed to the bit until he brought it up to her. So maybe she is a great actor. Maybe she did open a theater. Who knows? But I don't know. I felt like she was very in it, and that maybe she did end up hurting herself or her loved ones or whatever after that conversation.
It just kind of, he cuts it off. Well, she cuts it off, and then it just ends.
Yeah.
As far as the audience knows. So
right.
It's just not suspenseful.
Yeah.
And I like slow burn movies. I've said it a lot on this podcast and show, and it was too much for me. It was like, okay, something happened. Let's go.
I feel like for certain, JLB's story at the end isn't logical because she was 14 maybe at the oldest. So if she ends up being institutionalized for a year, visiting some facility, and then is now involved with some theater group, like, she needs to go back to school. So I don't think that's possible.
That's why I was questioning her age, because I thought maybe she was almost graduated. I don't know.
I thought
don't
she
say.
was I thought she says she's 14, but
Damn, did I miss half this movie? I might have.
know.
I might have
Maybe
been
I'm
zoning
making
out.
it up, but like, to me, she seemed very young. I'm not great at ages either, though, so who knows?
Who knows? If you know, let us know in the comment.
Yeah.
May have just missed it. What did you give Atmosphere?
I gave it a 1. It's an average house in town, but I do give it credit for the music helping to elevate the scenery and the way they portrayed how isolated Casey felt, along with subtle hints of her fearing her father without ever showing him.
It's 3 o'clock in the fucking morning.
Sorry.
How about you?
Okay. I actually gave it a 2. I said, I think this is one of the few movies we cover where the atmosphere was the scariest aspect. Taking place in New York in the winter, we see how lonely and almost desolate Casey's home and town seem, which really added to the isolation presented throughout. We could also consider the internet or the titular World's Fair as a location, which could heighten the mystery of the film. I think this aspect is where the movie shined more than the other categories.
I agree. I could bump it up to a 2, honestly, because I really did like the music and like them trying to like embed you in it, like, as if you live in the town or as if you are part of the World Fair thing.
We see scenes of abandoned Toys R Us and other stores, and then the forest, and then her house, and there's like no one ever around except towards the end when they're like dropping the ball for New Year's, I think.
Yeah.
But it really, the atmosphere, location, and even the music really do lend itself to this isolation that she's feeling and kind of the overall theme, at least the theme I took out of the movie. I don't know. I think this was, out of all the categories we had here, this is like the closest we're going to get to anything scary.
Yeah, I agree. Because even when she's walking through the crowd, it's not because she feels a sense of community. She's like messaging JLB or sending him like a vlog basically of herself and telling him that she's thinking of using the gun on herself or on her father, or that eventually the game will just suck her in and she'll disappear without anyone knowing what happened to her. It's not like it makes you feel like there's any sense of community around her. You almost feel like she's the threat to the community if you really think about it, because you don't know what she's going to do. Yeah,
that, or she's just straight up invisible. Like no one's interacting with her. What even is the World's Fair? Like, there's a quick scene where it's like a 8-bit video game where you do see like a fair in the background. Like, is it
that
fair? Is that what it is? Like,
yeah,
because the video you watch of the world when you do the World's Fair challenge, you like prick your thumb or whatever, and then you put like the blood on the screen, and it's just flashing lights.
Yeah, but we don't know if there's images that come with that, or if it's
they
just
show it at one point, and at least when they show it to the audience, it's just colors cycling through. I'm like, is this just all in your head type role playing situation where it could look like however you want it to look?
Maybe. I also thought it was so strange that she would have to document her changes as like the weeks progressed and everything since she did this challenge, because I thought it would be almost like the span of a night or maybe even a weekend, like, and she would just be kind of like live streaming the whole time. I didn't know that she'd have to have some sort of following and make sure that she'd have return audience to see the effects.
I'm like, girl, stop playing. Like the scene where she like moves her hand in her face. I'm like,
yeah,
okay,
that was weird.
I see what you're doing. And I don't know if you noticed, like the view count, it wasn't that many. So it's not like she has this huge following that's like invested in what's happening outside of what's his name?
JLB.
ABC, JLB. I feel like, to me, you know what, never mind. I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it for villain.
Okay.
What did you have for villain?
I gave villain a 1. I said, who is it? Did I miss it? Kind of hard to determine who's the real enemy here. Maybe it's JLB for taking too much interest in a child online and definitely felt uncomfortable every time they spoke to each other. Or maybe the real villain is Casey's delusions or that of those that play World Fair, prolonging the game and making others believe the effects are real. Despite what she says in the climax about knowing it all to be fake, I really do think Casey believed this was happening to her. And I'm only scared of the fact that we don't get confirmation on how her story ended.
Okay.
How about you?
I gave it a 1 as well. I think we're on the same page here. I said, not really sure what I would consider the villain or danger. I think it could really be a combination of things or none at all, depending on how you interpret this film. The absent father, the concerning relationship of JBL or JLB, whatever his name is. So stupid. They could have given him a name. Anyways, him, the World's Fair challenge, or even Casey being a danger to herself or her father. There is really no clear-cut answer to this. That being said, none of these options are particularly scary to me, just overall really concerning.
For sure. It's just definitely like red flag behavior. That's the whole time. Like from everyone, honestly.
Yeah, and then this is where I read your bit, and I'm leaning towards that she maybe not necessarily believed the changes were happening. I think maybe she did get a little too involved in the world that she built for herself. But I think ultimately at the end of the day, she did realize it's not real, because it really just depends on us watching it. Like when I mentioned when her hand moves and her eyes open, like if she did that herself, then obviously nothing's really happening.
Yeah.
So it's just, or, if she did it in her sleep, who knows? And you mentioned that she had a history of doing this already.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing really happens in this movie outside of her freak out with her stuffed animal.
Yeah.
To suggest anything's even going on.
My name is Poe. I love you.
And honestly, like, if you take out the whole World Fair thing, like, what's that symbolizing? Like, the end of her childhood. Like, she destroys this childhood stuffed animal that she's had since she's a baby. It's just like another analogy for coming of age in a way. It just violently. But, like, if you take all of the mental illness, maybe even the paranormal of the World Fair, it's just that.
Then she walks down the stairs, and then she comes back. She's like, oh, no.
Oh,
what
no.
happened?
No. Poe. What did I do to you? What did I do to you?
Not Poe. I'm like, girl,
you saw it. You were here.
I think she did really engross herself in this whole game that she's playing. And I think she was able to do that so much because she's so lonely that she was really able to dive in there. But I don't know. I just feel like at the end of the day, she maybe got lost in the sauce a little bit. And then when he's like, snaps her out of it, she's like, oh, yeah.
Oh. And she didn't even know what the term was, like, can we talk out of game meant.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's why I was like, maybe she did believe she was in it, but I don't know. You can keep on speculating, honestly, forever.
Yeah, right. There's no clear-cut answer, and I think where I land is nothing paranormal's happening. JLB and Casey never met at the end. She ultimately knew it was a game, and the only reason I say that really is just going back to if she was really convinced this was real, I feel like she would have put up some sort of a fight with it, like, or
maybe.
kept going on. I don't know. She just kind of like, fuck off, and it calls him a pedophile also.
Yeah, so she knows he's old. He's older. And can we talk about JLB being just like the creepiest? Honestly, he doesn't show his face when they talk, which I guess is fine because she's a minor. She doesn't need to see him. But also when she talks to him, there's just like all this heavy breathing. You're like wondering what the fuck he's doing, like in between these sentences. Like, is he having a time by himself while talking to her? And yeah, like, I don't know. Like,
yeah, it also raises the question of their online personas too, right? We could say or think that when he's talking to her, he's still talking to her like in game. So if he has this persona already, like he's making these semi-creepy videos, I would say, and he has this voice that he puts on for those or whatever that looks like, I would stand to argue that he would still use that voice when he's talking to somebody. So it is a really creepy voice. Like, sir, let's not. first of all, you shouldn't even be talking to her like this. I'm going to assume nothing weird is going on when he has that voice.
I hope so, honestly.
Right, who
But
knows?
there's also, I saw someone point out online, it was probably like in a Reddit, that the way he makes like this fantastical tale about them meeting a year later, it feels like it's kind of adding to his fantasy like storyline because he gets to be the hero. He saved her. He stopped her from herself.
Actually in front of one another after all this time, like, we both had so much to say. And it was only outside the subway that I finally worked up the courage to ask her about that night. She apologized for the things she'd said to me that night. I told her it was all right. I knew she didn't mean them. So I told her how I'd stayed up at night, all night, till dawn, with my hands on the computer screen, and how I'd prayed for her.
And I know that's kind of a little, sometimes a part of pedophilic fantasies as well. Like they feel like they're helping some child that has a worse off home life and they'll give them the love that they're not getting elsewhere.
Yeah, there's an overall creepy tone. And it's one of those things like outside of him talking to her, which he shouldn't be doing, which we already said, they don't show him doing anything else inappropriate along those lines. So again, maybe naivety on my part, but I'm just going to go ahead and just benefit of the doubt. Like, hopefully
he was just concerned.
That was not his intention.
Yeah.
I was going to go with that. Still very weird and not appropriate.
I don't know. He pushes her to keep making videos, though. I don't know.
You're like, I want him to be a pedophile.
I watch a lot of Law and Order SVU. He is definitely a suspect, okay? And when they start off, too, it's only on her face. So at first, I thought we were going to do the whole movie with her sitting at her desk and we're just watching her reaction to everything she sees on screen. So then when we finally switch back and we find out that we're talking to him, and too, I was like, are we focusing on Casey's experience or him as the viewer of Casey? It's just kind of back and forth a lot.
And then again, it ends with him and saying his fantasy, or if that happened, like I said, who knows? Who are we ending on? Him? Why? What?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Get the ending? Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there's just really no villain here.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't have any confirmation, so.
Did you give the movie your extra point?
I didn't. I didn't end up giving this my extra special point, mainly because I find it forgettable in comparison to something similar like Unfriended or Cam. I didn't need all the answers, but I just felt like the suspense and escalation wasn't paying off to get me invested in what could happen.
I did not, mostly just because I don't really see this as a horror movie. I see it more as a drama and even coming of age type situation. It just wasn't scary. It was just weird, maybe, and somewhat boring. It was boring. It was kind of boring. I'm so sorry.
Bit, yeah. I mean, the vibes were fun because of the music and everything. Like, they keep on showing her, like, walking along a highway, and they have, like, this nice, like, indie music kind of playing behind her that's, like, kind of sad and forlorn, but it just gives you a nice, like, aesthetic, I guess, of growing up and feeling isolated. But other than that, I'm like, I'm not interested, man.
Yeah.
I see what overall, you're trying to do, but I don't know.
It's not it. I was not the audience for this.
Yeah.
It just didn't hit for me. I know there's, a lot of interpretation, a lot of themes. I know one of them was potentially gender dysphoria was one of the potential themes going on here. I don't experience that, so I don't know. So to me, it just wasn't for me, and it wasn't meant to be. And I found it really interesting that there was such a discrepancy, like 91% for the critics and like 30 whatever it was for audience.
That's a big gap.
Like, I saw that before the movie. I'm like, either I'm going to like this or I'm going to really not. And I unfortunately just on the really not end of that. It was at least interesting, and it did make me uncomfortable. So I got to give it some credit there.
Yeah. In concept, I think it was like, a good try. I just don't know if I would be like, let's revisit it, because not a lot happens.
So totaling everything up, I gave it a 5, and you gave it a 6. I even feel like that's a little high, but
honestly, yeah. Sometimes when you see the numbers all totaled up, you're like, should I rethink that?
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like and, of course, leave us a comment for any movies you'd like us to cover next.
You can find us on social media using 13 Degrees of Screams.
This has been 13 Degrees of Screams, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.